The sound of expensive leather shoes squelching through mud mixed with cruel laughter as Natalie Harper found herself sprawled in the thick, black sludge behind Preston Academy's cafeteria. Her second-hand white dress, carefully washed and pressed that morning, now resembled a Jackson Pollock painting gone wrong. Above her, Tristan Blackwood stood with his Golden Circle gang, their designer uniforms pristine, their gold jewelry catching the afternoon sun like badges of untouchable privilege. "Look at the janitor's daughter trying to play dress-up," Tristan sneered, his perfectly styled blonde hair not even disturbed by the violence he'd just committed. 4 other students formed a semicircle around them, phones out, recording every humiliating second. But as Tristan bent down to deliver another mocking comment, something unexpected happened. Natalie's mud-covered hand shot out, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. She pulled him close, mud squelching between them, and whispered something that made his smirk vanish instantly. "They're listening right now." Her voice was ice-cold, nothing like the timid girl they thought they knew. "Every word you just said." Tristan's face went pale beneath his tan. Who was listening? How could she possibly know? If you've ever witnessed the powerful crushing those beneath them, if you've ever felt the burning injustice of wealth buying silence, then hit that like button and share your story in the comments. This video is for everyone who believes justice doesn't care about your bank account. And sometimes the quietest person in the room holds the most dangerous secrets. The morning had started like any other at Preston Academy, where annual tuition cost $75,000 and parking lots looked like luxury car dealerships. Natalie Harper sat in her usual spot, the corner table in the cafeteria that nobody wanted because it was too close to the garbage bins. She didn't mind the smell. It masked the expensive perfumes and colognes that made her feel even more out of place. Her notebook lay open beside her tray, filled with what looked like chemistry notes, but were actually something far more interesting. She watched Tristan Blackwood make his entrance, flanked by his usual crew. Ruby Martinez, with her blood-red nails and designer handbag worth more than Natalie's mother made in 3 months. Beside her, Jake Cromwell, whose father owned half the commercial real estate in Connecticut. Then came Sophia Sterling and Brad Huntington, completing the Golden Circle, Preston Academy's most feared and revered student group. Teachers stepped aside as they passed. Even Principal Worthington, usually such a stickler for rules, pretended not to notice when Tristan casually dropped a $100 bill on the floor and laughed as a freshman scrambled to pick it up, only to have Jake step on the kid's fingers. The message was clear. They owned this place. Natalie made another notation in her book, her handwriting a careful cipher that looked like chemical formulas but actually documented something else entirely. Time, 12:43 p.m. Location, main hallway. Witnesses, 14. Victim, Christopher Lang, freshman, scholarship student. She'd been keeping these records for 6 months now, ever since the night her mother made a discovery that changed everything. Eleanor Harper had been cleaning Principal Worthington's office at 2 in the morning. Her usual shift, when the school was empty and she could work without the sneers and dismissive looks from people who saw her uniform and immediately classified her as invisible. She was emptying the wastebasket when she noticed something had fallen behind the heavy oak filing cabinet. Always thorough, Eleanor had squeezed her small frame into the gap to retrieve what turned out to be a USB drive. Curiosity wasn't usually Eleanor's vice, but something about finding a hidden drive at 2 a.m. made her pocket it instead of leaving it on the desk. When she got home and plugged it into their ancient laptop, what she saw made her hands shake. Spreadsheets with entries like Preston Laundry, April, 2.3 million, and Cayman account 447B, transfer complete. Eleanor Harper might clean offices for a living, but she wasn't stupid. She knew money laundering when she saw it. That's when their lives had taken a sharp turn into dangerous territory. Within a week, FBI agent Sarah Chen was sitting in their tiny apartment, explaining how Preston Academy had become a washing machine for dirty money, how some of the wealthiest families in Connecticut were using their children's prestigious school to clean millions in illegal funds. "We need someone on the inside," Agent Chen had said, her dark eyes serious behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Someone the students trust, someone they don't see as a threat." Her gaze had shifted to Natalie. Someone invisible. Back in the cafeteria, Natalie closed her notebook as the golden circle approached her table. This was new. Usually, they ignored her completely, which suited her purposes perfectly. Being invisible meant being able to listen, to observe, to document. But something had changed. Tristan's blue eyes fixed on her with predatory interest. "Well, well," he said, his voice carrying that particular tone of entitlement that came from never hearing the word no. "Natalie Harper. You know, I've been thinking, it's really not fair that someone like you gets to attend Preston Academy. I mean, your mother empties our trash. Don't you think that's a bit awkward?" Ruby laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. "Oh, Tristan, be nice. Maybe she's here to learn the family business. Advanced Toilet Cleaning 101. Natalie kept her eyes down, playing the part of the meek scholarship student. Inside, she was cataloging every word, every gesture. Ruby's nervous habit of touching her necklace when she lied. Jake's tendency to crack his knuckles before violence. Sophia's fake smile that never reached her eyes. Brad's constant checking of his phone, probably monitoring those shipments they'd been discussing all week when they thought no one was listening. "I asked you a question," Tristan said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. He slammed his palm on her table, making her tray jump. Chocolate milk splattered across her notebook. "When I speak to you, you answer. That's how this works." "I'm sorry," Natalie said quietly, her voice carefully modulated to sound afraid. "I didn't mean to—" "You didn't mean to exist?" Sophia suggested sweetly, "because that's really the problem here. You're like a stain on Preston's reputation, the daughter of the help, pretending she belongs with us." That's when they grabbed her tray and dumped it over her head. Mashed potatoes and gravy ran down her hair as the cafeteria erupted in laughter. But Natalie noticed something the others didn't. Ruby's phone, propped against her designer bag, was recording everything. And thanks to the cloud backup Natalie had installed when Ruby left her phone unattended last month, every video uploaded automatically to a certain FBI server. Natalie stood slowly, food dripping from her clothes, and walked out of the cafeteria with as much dignity as she could muster. Behind her, the Golden Circle high-fived each other, convinced they'd put the janitor's daughter in her place. They had no idea they'd just created evidence file number 47 in a federal investigation. The harassment escalated over the following weeks. Her locker was vandalized with spray paint spelling out "trash" in golden letters. Subtle, they were not. But when Natalie opened her destroyed locker, she wasn't looking at her ruined textbooks. She was retrieving something else entirely. A tactical recording device no bigger than a button, hidden in the spine of her chemistry book. This particular piece of equipment was military-grade, capable of recording 72 hours of continuous audio in HD quality. It automatically uploaded to cloud storage with legally admissible timestamp verification. The same type federal investigators used for deep cover operations in hostile environments. Natalie slipped it into her pocket just as Tristan appeared behind her. "Oops," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "Looks like someone doesn't appreciate you being here. Can't imagine who that might be." "Why are you doing this?" Natalie asked, allowing a tremor to enter her voice. It wasn't entirely fake. Despite her training, despite knowing she had backup, being surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to hurt her was terrifying. "Because I can," Tristan said simply. "Because your mother cleans our toilets, and you sit in our classrooms pretending equality exists. Because every time I see you, I'm reminded that standards have fallen. My father pays more in donations each year than your mother will make in her lifetime. Yet, here you are, breathing our air, taking up space meant for people who matter." Jake leaned against the lockers, his wrestler's build blocking any escape route. "You know what happens to people who don't know their place, right? Accidents happen. Your mom's job might suddenly disappear. Your scholarship could be revoked for, academic dishonesty. Amazing what a well-placed word can do." That's when Natalie made her first calculated move. She looked Tristan directly in the eye and said, "Blackwood Industries, account 447B, Cayman Islands, 14 million last month alone." The color drained from Tristan's face so fast she thought he might faint. Jake's hands dropped to his sides. Ruby gasped. For the first time since she'd met them, the Golden Circle looked afraid. "How do you—" Tristan started, then caught himself. His eyes narrowed dangerously. "You're lying. You don't know anything." "Don't I?" Natalie let a small smile play at her lips. "Maybe you should be more careful about what you discuss in the library study rooms. Sound really carries in there." That was a lie. She'd learned about the accounts from the FBI files, but planting the seed of doubt, making them paranoid about where and when they spoke, that was all part of the strategy. Agent Chen had been clear. Make them nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. Mistakes become evidence. Tristan grabbed her arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "Listen carefully, you little nobody. If you think you can threaten me, you're stupider than you look. My father owns judges. He owns police commissioners. He owns this entire town. Whatever you think you know, you'd better forget it. Or your mother won't just lose her job. She'll lose everything." "Tristan," Ruby warned, glancing around the hallway. "There are cameras." He released Natalie roughly, shoving her against the lockers. "This isn't over. You're going to learn what happens to people who forget their place." As they walked away, Natalie rubbed her arm and made another mental note. Assault. Witnesses, 12. Camera angles, 2, possibly 3. Threat level, escalating. She pulled out her phone and sent a coded message to Agent Chen. Just 3 words that meant everything. Fish are biting. The mud incident happened exactly 1 week later. Natalie had started varying her routes through school, never taking the same path twice, always staying in view of cameras when possible. But the Golden Circle had done their homework. They knew the blind spots, the places where Preston Academy's security system had gaps. The area behind the cafeteria, where the dumpsters created a maze of shadows, and the nearest camera had been mysteriously broken for months. They cornered her there during lunch, when most students were inside and the few who ventured out were easily convinced to look the other way. Tristan stood at the center, his handsome face twisted with rage that had been building since she'd mentioned those account numbers. "You know what your problem is?" he said, circling her like a predator. "You don't understand the natural order of things. See, in nature, there are predators and prey, lions and gazelles. And you, Natalie Harper, you're not even a gazelle. You're an insect, something to be stepped on and forgotten." The mud puddle was massive, a remnant from the morning's rain mixed with whatever foul runoff came from the cafeteria's drainage. It was positioned perfectly, Natalie noticed, right where they wanted her to end up. This was planned, choreographed even. Ruby had her phone out, ready to record. Jake and Brad flanked her escape routes. Sophia stood back, filing her nails with affected boredom. "I'm giving you one last chance," Tristan continued. "Kneel down, right here, and beg for forgiveness. Tell everyone you're sorry for existing above your station. Maybe I'll be merciful. Maybe I'll only ruin your scholarship instead of your entire family." Natalie calculated her options. Agent Chen had been clear about maintaining cover, about gathering evidence without blowing the operation. But Chen had also said something else. Sometimes, to catch the big fish, you have to let them think they've won. "I won't kneel," Natalie said quietly. "Wrong answer," Tristan snarled. The push came hard and fast, both hands against her shoulders with the full force of his quarterback training. Natalie went down hard, the mud cold and thick, seeping instantly through her clothes. The laughter was immediate and cruel. Ruby zoomed in with her phone, making sure to capture every humiliating angle. But as Tristan leaned down to deliver what would surely be a cutting final insult, Natalie made her move. Her hand shot out, muddy fingers wrapping around his wrist with surprising strength. Using his own momentum against him, she pulled hard. Tristan, caught completely off guard, lost his balance and toppled forward, landing face first in the mud beside her. The laughter stopped abruptly. In the sudden silence, Natalie pulled him close, her lips near his ear, and delivered the words that would haunt him. "They're listening right now. Every word you just said. Every threat. Every confession about those shipments you discussed yesterday." Tristan tried to jerk away, but she held on, her voice dropping even lower. "Did you really think the FBI wouldn't notice $47 million being washed through a high school? Did you think Agent Chen wasn't building a case while you were playing gangster?" His eyes went wide with terror, pupils dilating as the implications hit him. "You're lying," he gasped, but his voice cracked with uncertainty. "Container 7794, Natalie whispered. "Arriving tomorrow at midnight. Manifest says educational supplies. We both know what's really inside." She released him then, letting him scramble backward in the mud, his perfect facade cracking like a mirror hit by a hammer. "You're insane," Ruby said, but her voice shook. The phone in her hand trembled. "Tristan, she's just trying to—" "Shut up!" Tristan screamed, real panic in his voice now. He was covered in mud, his designer clothes ruined, his carefully styled hair plastered to his head. But worse than the physical mess was the fear in his eyes. "Everyone shut up!" He turned to his crew, wild-eyed. "Check your phones, all of you. Check for recording apps, spyware, anything." "Tristan, what is she talking about?" Sophia demanded, her affected boredom replaced by genuine concern. "What shipments? What containers?" And that's when Natalie knew she had them. The cracks in their unity were showing. Paranoia was setting in. They were about to turn on each other, and when they did, the whole house of cards would come tumbling down. She stood up slowly, mud dripping from her ruined dress, and smiled. It wasn't the smile of a victim. It was the smile of someone who had just flipped the entire script. "You should probably call your fathers," she said calmly. "All of them. Tell them the laundry machine is broken." As she walked away, leaving them in panicked confusion, Natalie heard Ruby's terrified voice. "Tristan, what did we do? What have we done?" The answer to that question would come soon enough. But first, Natalie needed to change clothes, update Agent Chen, and prepare for what came next. Because the mud incident wasn't the end of anything. It was just the beginning of Preston Academy's darkest secrets coming to light. The next 48 hours at Preston Academy felt like watching a Jenga tower seconds before collapse. Tristan hadn't returned to school, and rumors flew faster than private jets. Some said his father had pulled him out. Others whispered about lawyers and emergency board meetings. The Golden Circle, usually an impenetrable unit, showed visible cracks. Ruby jumped at every notification. Jake kept checking over his shoulder. Sophia and Brad barely spoke to anyone. Natalie maintained her routine, sitting in her corner spot, taking her notes. But now students gave her a wide berth, unsure what to make of the girl who'd pulled Tristan Blackwood into the mud and walked away smiling. Even teachers seemed nervous around her, as if they sensed something shifting in Preston Academy's carefully maintained ecosystem. On Thursday morning, everything accelerated. The entire school had been summoned to a mandatory assembly. Principal Worthington stood at the podium, his usually confident demeanor replaced by barely concealed anxiety. Beside him, several board members sat in uncomfortable silence, their faces grave. "Students of Preston Academy," Worthington began, his voice echoing through the packed auditorium. "I want to address the rumors that have been circulating. I assure you that this institution maintains the highest standards of—" The double doors at the back of the auditorium exploded open with synchronized precision. Not kicked, but pushed with such coordinated force, they slammed against the walls. Black-suited figures poured in, fanning out along the walls with practiced efficiency. FBI windbreakers caught the stage lights like warnings. "Nobody move!" Agent Sarah Chen's voice cut through the gasps and screams. "This is a federal operation. Remain in your seats." Chaos erupted despite the command. Students pulled out phones, parents in the audience, because, of course, Preston Academy parents attended random Thursday assemblies, started shouting about lawyers and rights. But the agents were already moving, swift and purposeful. "Richard Blackwood," Agent Chen announced, her voice carrying clearly as she approached the board member section. "You're under arrest for money laundering, tax evasion, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud." Tristan's father, sitting in the front row, went rigid. "This is ridiculous. I want my lawyer." "Save it for processing," Chen cut him off, as agents cuffed him. More names followed. Board members, parents, even Principal Worthington found himself in handcuffs, his protests falling on deaf ears. That's when Natalie stood up. She rose from her spot in the middle section, no longer hunched or trying to appear small. Her posture straightened, shoulders back, chin lifted. The meek scholarship student facade fell away like a discarded costume. Students around her gasped as she walked down the aisle toward the stage, each step confident and measured. "Good morning, everyone," she said, taking the microphone from Worthington's limp hand. Her voice, usually so quiet, filled the auditorium with unexpected authority. "My name is Natalie Harper. You know me as the janitor's daughter. What you didn't know is that, for the past 6 months, I've been documenting every crime committed at this school." She reached into her blazer and pulled out what looked like a student ID. But as she held it up, the FBI badge caught the light. "Junior Information Asset. That's the official term. I prefer the girl who was paying attention while you were counting your money." The auditorium erupted. Screams, shouts, accusations flew like shrapnel. But Natalie continued, calm and collected. "Every threat, every bribe, every mention of shipments and containers, I recorded it all. Ruby Martinez, your cloud storage was particularly helpful. Did you know your videos auto-uploaded to a shared drive? Jake Cromwell, those private conversations in the weight room? The acoustic tiles really carried your voice." Ruby burst into tears. Jake looked like he might be sick. From the cluster of Golden Circle members, someone shouted, "You set us up!" "No," Natalie corrected. "You set yourselves up. I just made sure someone was watching when you did it. Agent Chen approached the microphone. Preston Academy has been under federal investigation for 18 months. This institution was being used to launder over $47 million in illegal funds. 23 arrests have been made this morning, with more to follow. As agents continued processing arrests, Natalie's eyes found Tristan in the crowd. He looked smaller somehow, his golden boy shine completely extinguished. Their eyes met across the chaos, and she saw the moment he truly understood. Every word he'd spoken, every threat he'd made, every cruel laugh. She'd been building a case with each one. The media arrived within minutes, their cameras capturing the surreal scene of Connecticut's elite being led away in handcuffs. The mud incident video, now viral, took on new meaning as people realized they'd witnessed a federal informant in action. Janitor's daughter justice trended within hours. 3 months later, Natalie sat in a congressional hearing room, testifying about systemic corruption in elite educational institutions. Tristan Blackwood had been sentenced to 10 years. His father got 25. Principal Worthington plea bargained down to 7. The Golden Circle had been thoroughly dissolved, its members scattered to various juvenile facilities or house arrest. "Miss Harper," the senator asked, "what made you decide to risk everything to expose this?" Natalie thought of her mother, who'd worked honest jobs her entire life, only to be looked down upon by criminals in designer suits. Because someone needed to remind them that justice doesn't check your bank balance, Senator. It only checks your crimes. The hearing concluded with recommendations for nationwide audits of private schools receiving federal funds. Natalie's testimony made headlines, her transformation from victim to hero complete. Harvard, Yale, and Princeton all extended full scholarships. She turned them all down. Instead, she sat in a different office, looking at a different acceptance letter. FBI Academy, Quantico. The recruiter had been impressed by her field work, her ability to maintain cover under pressure. "You could make a real difference," the recruiter had said. Natalie smiled. "I've already caught a few. Might as well make it a career." Walking out of Preston Academy for the last time, she noticed something. A new student, quiet and watchful, sitting in the corner of the cafeteria. The girl had that same look, seeing everything while appearing to see nothing. Their eyes met briefly. An imperceptible nod passed between them. Natalie paused at the door, looking back at the school that had been her battlefield. Then she delivered the line that would echo through Preston's halls. "Every school has secrets. We just found our first." The implication hung like a promise, or a threat, because corruption never really dies. It just finds new places to hide, waiting for another quiet girl to drag everyone down into the mud.